Brilliant. Okay, so we have 34 people. Thank you very much for joining, everyone. Yeah, really pleased to have you on board. So this is our 8th, we're nearly in double figures, AI in Action webinar. And as you should know, some of you, then yeah, the idea behind the webinar series is to actually show what's going on in AI in the wild within local SMEs here in Jersey. So today's topic, we are looking at your AI Copilot is here. Stop chatting and start delegating. So it's really looking at personal AI this time and how it's moving from the conversational chatbots that we've known for 3 years or so to assistants now that you can actually delegate tasks to and get things back from. So as I said, if there's new people there, just with housekeeping, do keep your audio off, put any questions that you have into the chat and we will answer them at the end. Brilliant. Okay, so today's flow. So as I said, it's about personal productivity this time. We've talked about team productivity and automation and things like that in the past, but today is personal productivity. And some of the tools that we're using do have team functions, but we're concentrating on like your AI personal assistant and looking about how this change from chatbot to coworker has happened. And then I'll be looking at sort of 3 use cases that I personally am using Claude Cowork for, and that's the kind of tool that we're building this this webinar around. And then I'll hand over to Anish, who will actually do a tour of Cowork and show you an example of how it works. So doing some prompting there and getting some output from the tool. Then Anish will also talk about Microsoft Copilot Cowork, which I find a bit of a mouthful, but this is something that Microsoft has kind of released to a select amount of people, but will be coming to the mainstream very, very shortly. And he'll be talking about what you can expect from that. And then to finish off, before we get into the Q&A, just a couple of things from us about our next webinar and also a possible new initiative that we're launching in Blue Llama, which we'd like your input from. So let's kick off. So first of all, something a little bit different. We would like to just conduct a poll from you guys. So to find out who here is using Claude. So I don't know, I think at the top of your screen, very top right, you should have a little sort of purple icon with a bar chart in it. So if you just want to click on that, I don't know if it works when it should come up with a poll. Do you use Claude? And if you could tell us if you do, if you're just using the chat feature, you are using, but just in the chat feature, if you're using chat and Cowork, or if you are using all the tools together, chat, Cowork, and code. So I think most of you have got that. It's the purple icon in the top right, the little bar chart. And yeah, so 31 of you have voted already. So if you click on that, you should, I think, see the results as well. So we are talking the majority of people. So what are we talking there? Like, yeah, around 55–60% of you haven't used Claude before. So that's really interesting. Some of you just using it for chat, which I think you can use in the free version. And then yeah, so a small 8 out of 50 people attending are using Cowork, which is what we're going to be talking about today, and some of you also using code as well. So yeah, interesting stuff. I was saying to Anish before, I thought it would be a 50–50 split, but it kind of, no, it's more on the, it's more that some of you are new to it. Brilliant. Okay, well, that's interesting. So I think that's a good thing for this presentation, because we are kind of looking at it from people that aren't hugely educated on these tools. So let's kick off. So back on the 2nd of February of this year, so not that long ago, there was a $250 billion wiped off software stocks in one single day. And software stocks, as you can see from that chart that shows from November to February, have been having bit of a rough ride. We've talked about in the past about vibe coding and how it's much easier. The barrier to entry of creating your own application is lower. So I think that had part of the kind of the downward trend in software stocks. But on that particular day, there was a massive amount of money wiped off those stocks, and it coincided with the launch of Claude Cowork. So we think that savvy investors, or it's known that savvy investors, saw that traditional software where humans were interacting with the user interface, that was no longer the future of software, and actually that humans using AI agents to interact with their data and their business logic was probably going to be the future. So this downward spike was the result of that. And so what it is a real shift that's taking place in the market, and how software works and the role of software and the role of human beings in the work environment is looking like it's going to change over the next few years. So what I'll be talking about here, what is this shift that we're seeing? So in 2022, November, ChatGPT was launched, and it has obviously come on quite a bit since there, but you're still in this kind of, you ask a question and then the AI answers. It's one question at a time. There's this back and forth Q&A. It all happens within your chat window, and then when you get some sort of output that you like, if you're producing a report or producing an email, you copy and paste that, you jiggle it around a bit into Word or an email or whatever. The change that we're seeing in 2026 is to autonomous agents, so personal autonomous agents, where you brief the AI on what you want it to do, and then it goes out there and finds a way to deliver a result for you. You're describing the goal, not the steps. So you're not saying, I want you to do this, then this, then this, then this. You're describing what the end game is, and it works out what steps to take, breaking down that task into those separate steps and then working through them. It can read and write across your different tools. So it's not just your chat window that it's looking at. It can access all sorts of tools that you use. So that could be your email, it could be a spreadsheet, it could be your accounting software, it could be your CRM, it could be all sorts of different tools that you use. And it's delivering a finished output. So that could be creating a Word document, it could be creating an invoice. It's doing all of this automatically. So the shift here is we're delegating to a virtual coworker rather than just doing a Q&A back and forth. So the big tool that made that shift in the stock market is Claude Code. And now it's part of the Claude application. So as we kind of talked about in the voting, there's Claude Chat, there's Claude Cowork, and then there's, this is Claude Cowork, and then there's Claude Code. So Cowork is what we're talking about right now. Did I say code? And it's a desktop application designed around knowledge workers. So it's similar to Claude Code, but it's designed for knowledge workers, desk-based workers. And it actively works alongside you and it completes tasks on your computer. And if you look here, it's like, this is what, how Anthropic kind of position it. Let's knock something off your list. So it's really about getting things done. So it's only available in the Claude app, so you can't use your browser because it uses your local machine. Initially it was only for Mac, but now it's for Windows as well. And you do need to have a paid subscription, which is about $20 per month, the minimum. And if you're a big user, it goes up to $100 per month. So how is this tool, Claude Cowork, different from ChatGPT and the other tools that we've seen before? So as I said before, it works locally. So it reads your files and folders. So there's examples on YouTube and stuff where people would like point it at your desktop and just go, come on, organize my desktop. And it'll create, like from having hundreds of icons on the desktop, it'll go out and create folders and organize them into particular folders. So it can read, move and organize files. Your data stays on your machine. So this is really important. So if it creates a Word document or if it creates some sort of output, that information stays securely on your machine. Yes, you can integrate it with the likes of Google Drive or Dropbox or something, but natively it will just be creating files on your machine. And it stores your business knowledge in files that you can read and edit. So there's these things called MD files, markdown files, and those are human readable as well as readable by the AI. So when you create tools like a skill, you can understand that skill. It's written in normal human language. Next, the output quality. So difficult to sort of explain this one, but the stuff that you get back from Claude, in my opinion, and most people's opinion, is superior to what you get out of ChatGPT at the moment. Claude has always kind of written better in terms of, that's terrible language, but it's better at writing quality content. So if you wanted a report written, you wanted something that sounded natural, Claude's always been better than that. It writes in your voice, and the more you use it, the more it feels like it's a coworker rather than a chatbot. The output feels ready to go, and it catches its own mistakes. So it will review what's being provided, and it will just correct mistakes. There's still obviously hallucination with all AI, and you have to check it, but a lot of that is reduced by doing its own checks. Connectors. So yes, ChatGPT does have connectors in there, but again, I feel that Claude and Cowork especially deals really well with this. So there are not native integrations, but there are integrations built in. So for example, to Google Apps, one click, and then you put in your password, and then Claude can connect out to your email, to your calendar, to Google Slides. It can search for information and read and write live data. So again, if you connect it to your CRM, if you connect it up to your accounting system, it can bring back that information. So you can ask, what was our revenue last month? Or it can go out there and write something, so it can create an invoice for you. But you determine what it can and can't do. So it's connecting as you as a user, so it has the capability to do that, everything that you would do normally as a user within that application. And obviously you might have different roles within that software, but you can also switch on and off certain things. So if, for example, you weren't happy with it writing anything to your CRM, but you were happy for it to reading stuff, then you can actually configure that within the settings. And then lastly, as I kind of mentioned before, alluded to, it can deliver finished Word, Excel, and PowerPoint files. That's inbuilt. So the formatting of when it creates a Word document is something superior to most people, but it would take them a long time to do. It's really quite impressive stuff. Okay, so planning, what do I mean by that? So alluded it to before again, it breaks your goal down into separate steps. And when Anish demonstrates later, you'll see on the right-hand bar, it's kind of working out. The first thing it does is work out, well, how am I going to do this task? What separate steps do I need to make? And it'll show you those on the right-hand side. And then when something goes amiss, it can adapt that plan when, for example, if it can't access a particular website that it needs to, it'll think, how else can I do that? What other websites can I access to get that information? So it's constantly iterating on how best to complete that task for you. It reviews its own work, and it tries to spot errors and fixes them. So it does a kind of sanity check, and then it also runs for as long as it takes. So if you think about this, like traditionally we've been using AI, and the results are pretty instant back, but not all tasks can be done instantly. And if there's multi steps involved, then it may take some time. So sometimes it may run for 10 or 5-10 minutes, and you need to come back. Hopefully for Anish, it's going to be a bit quicker than that on the task that he's doing. And then lastly, for this section, like skills. So it allows you to create these skills. Again, they're stored in a nice file that is easily human readable, and you can go through and determine what it's doing. But you can create this process once for it, create the skill, and then you can go back and run that command time and time again, and you can even schedule it to run, say, daily. So for example, I have something that goes out and reads my emails, my Google tasks, reads the news, the Tide Times, all that kind of stuff, and then creates me like a briefing every morning. The output is consistent. You can obviously, if there's something wrong with it, you can adjust your skill to make it better. And over time, so one skill might only take sort of 5 minutes from your day, but if you're creating a catalog of these skills, then it soon adds up and can be like a real valuable asset for you. Oh, and just on the side here, so there is a QR code down here. So Nikki Anderson is doing a talk on the 7th of May at Digital Jersey, so an actual in-person one, all about developing Claude skills for your business. So if you want to click on that QR code and register for that, that'd be cool. I think when I last looked, it just said that there's only a few places left, so do get in there early. Marvelous. Okay, so how am I using Cowork at Blue Llama? So just a couple of examples to go through really quickly, not in much depth at all. So getting it to write a quick cold outreach email. So from time to time, I'm driving in my car and there's an advert on the back of the bus and I'm like, oh yeah, that company there would be like, that hits our ideal customer profile. So I want to send them an email telling them about our AI and automation skills. So before that'd be quite a manual process, but now I have a skill created in Claude, which I just send it the URL of their website, and then it has instructions to go through, find out about the business, what the business does, what services we do that would relate to that business, who we normally outreach to. So is it the operations director, is it the managing director? It depends on the size of the company. It'll find that, read the profiles on the about page, or go out to LinkedIn to find information about those people, find their email address, draft an email, and then that email will be ready for me in a few minutes in my drafts in Google, in Gmail to potentially edit, do 30 seconds edit and then press send. Another example, so Ivana is my personal assistant, and she'll go through for emails that need action, and she'll put a tag against those emails to action. And then I have a Claude skill that reads my emails, finds out the ones which have this tag. It then has this kind of conversation with me. What do you want to do? Do you want me to draft a response? Do you want me to skip? Do you want me to arrange a meeting with this person? It has access to my calendar to find my availability, so it can draft an email with available spots in my calendar. It can go out to HubSpot to see which is our CRM, to see if this is a sales client, and drafts an email. And then as well as drafting that email, it can also create a task in my task list if there's something that I need to action from that incoming email. And if it's something that the team has to action, then it can send something out to Slack, our team's messaging system. And then lastly from me, before I hand over to Anish, it can create a first draft of our client proposals. So we had a custom GPT that we used for this, but again, it was conversation that was happening all in the chat window, and it did cut down our proposal creation time by quite a lot, but there was still copy and paste and all this nasty stuff. What Claude can do, so it can go out to HubSpot to find out about our client. It can go out to Fathom, which is super powerful. So Fathom records all our video calls, so it can go out and find video calls for sales calls that we've transcripts from sales calls that we've had with that client, and get all the information from that. Go out to my email to find the back and forth emails that I've had with that prospective client, and then also access Newsy, which is our proposal software, to have examples of previous proposals that we've done for similar clients. Obviously, there's a little bit of back and forth with me. I tend to, in this case, like use voice just to chat to the AI to tell it about the proposal, how I want it structured, what should be included, all that kind of stuff. Then I send that, and then it creates a first draft, and it's actually creating it again within our proposal software, not out to something that I have to copy and paste. It knows to use different photos that we have in a photo library, and it will create those in the correct place within the proposal, and it will also draft an email with that proposal URL and like a short summary of what the proposal is about, and have that ready in Gmail draft for me to just quickly review and send. So yeah, cut down our proposal generation time by a considerable amount. Brilliant. Okay, so you've learned a little bit about Claude Cowork and what it's all about, and now Anish is going to do a quick demo on it before showing you also what might be available for Microsoft, a similar application. Anish.
Great, thanks, Phil. Appreciate that. So I will jump in onto my screen. And yeah, so thank you everyone for joining today. And yeah, we're super excited to talk a little bit more about Claude and Anthropic. And before I dive in, I just want to say, like, I'm sure for those who answered the poll, it's new, although we've been actively using it for a number of months. And I'll explain a little bit more about the switch from ChatGPT to Claude on my side. We are constantly learning with Claude and Anthropic, and you may be aware of the AI world, there's a new release pretty much every week, and Anthropic is no different. So we're constantly trying to keep up with what's going on. But I think from the experience we've had over the past few months, it's something that we can definitely share in terms of the impact and value we're having with it. So I will dive into my slides. So I'm just going to share my screen. Great. So just a bit of background on why I switched to Claude. So, you know, like many others who are on this call, ChatGPT was my key go-to, let's say, working partner, and also, you know, a lot of personal things I was using it for as well. But when I started using Claude, I had a massive shift in terms of output and impact in terms of the work I was doing. And I think there are three key things for me that were really important for the shift. So the first was the model. So the model that I was started to use, I think it was Opus 4.5, and I could see a seismic difference between the model on ChatGPT to the model on Claude in terms of the output of work. And I think that's the second thing is the level of output that Phil mentioned. I think that was huge in terms of for the work I was doing. I was getting much more out of Claude than I was getting out of ChatGPT. And this was just when Cowork was coming, it was released on the MacBook, and I was thinking, wow, there's a lot of value that I'm getting from here. And just another thing is the UI and UX. I found the UI UX was much more fitted to getting work done compared to ChatGPT. That was much more for a conversation. I still use ChatGPT, but much more for conversational stuff. So something that more like a Google search than it is for getting work done. Well, one analogy I like to use when I explain why I made that switch is that ChatGPT, when it comes to getting work done, feels more like a graduate student coming out. And, you know, I've been working for the last 10, 15 years, and I've hired a number of graduates. And I know my expectation is clear when I work with a graduate is there's a learning curve. And when they produce work, there's a gap in terms of the level of detail, the level of readiness for me to maybe send it to a client or work with a client. The work that is done by a graduate tends to have a gap, and there's a learning curve that needs to be done there, and there's a back and forth with the graduate that I need to kind of support and help them learn. With Claude, it felt like someone who's been in the industry for more than 10 years. The level of detail, the level of understanding, both the copy, the industry knowledge, and the output was a huge difference. I felt like it was teaching me than I was teaching it. So I was getting more value by learning what Claude was delivering than I was with ChatGPT. So that was one of my reasons for the switch. In terms of what I'm going to dive deep into now, first I'm going to, as Phil mentioned, share with you a little bit more about how to set up Claude Cowork. We won't be doing a major deep dive because there's a lot to explore in Claude and all the three aspects: chat, Cowork, and code. But I will give you a high level kind of a walkthrough of Cowork so you know what to expect when setting it up. Then I'll share with you kind of a demonstration of delegating a series of complex tasks so you can see how it's done, how simple and intuitive it is, and how the output as well can be experienced from getting work done. And then the final thing that I'll share with you is a key question is, what about Microsoft? At Blue Llama, we are geared towards helping customers who are using the Microsoft suite and are using, for data privacy, security reasons, maintaining the AI side of things within Microsoft rather than using OpenAI or Anthropic. So I will share a little bit more about, what Microsoft is doing in the space and how they are keeping up with this next wave of AI, or the next level of AI that Anthropic is bringing to the table. So before diving into the setup and the walkthrough, I'm just going to set the kind of scenario, the work scenario of the task that I'm going to ask Cowork to do. So the work scenario that might be typical, but different in terms of industry that I'm going to provide is, let's say I'm a marketing manager and I need to deliver a report and presentation for Monday, today being Thursday, so it's a short time frame, on where to put next quarter's marketing budget, whether it should be on webinars, Google Ads, or cold outreach. So pre-AI day or pre-Cowork day, let's say, I'll have a number of spreadsheets. So one could be on leads, one could be on revenue, one could be on expenses. And I then need to put this into first of all, a consolidated spreadsheet that summarizes the data in one single spreadsheet. And then I also need to create some kind of deck that I can use for the presentation that I'll need to deliver on Monday to the team and to answer the key question around where to put next quarter's budget. Now, of course, this process, I'm not just going to go there and answer the question and say, hey, guys, you should just do webinars. I'm going to have to provide the data, the information, review the data, understand the data, explain why Google Ads or webinars didn't perform as well as cold outreach, X, Y, Z. So there's a huge amount of work that needs to be done here. And it requires numerous skill sets. So one would be going through the document, understanding the difference between webinars, Google Ads, understanding the different aspects of it. So this could take 6 to 8 hours over a course of a week, so 1 or 2 hours here, or just a full day worth of work, putting everything together into a spreadsheet and into a presentation slide. With Cowork, what you'll find is it will significantly reduce that time, over half that time, where it will take care of everything up until here, where the person, let's say the marketing manager, will be reviewing the work, maybe editing the work, and then focusing much more on the presentation more than the more administrative data analysis side of things. So that's where I see Cowork adding significant value. So that sets the scenario. I'll now dive into an actual walkthrough. So I'm just going to jump into Cowork here. So as Phil mentioned, to use Cowork, you need to download it on your desktop. So on the cloud, you'll only have access to chat, but Cowork would be here, and then code would be here. So these are the three main tabs. They used to exist here, but they're now in the navigation menu here. So I'm going to jump straight into Cowork. So I won't go into code or chat. I'll share with you the example scenario I did yesterday with this particular work scenario, and then show you how to do it yourself. But before doing that, you have on the left menu a number of things. So first of all, you have projects. So as Phil mentioned, when you set up a project, it accesses it as a folder on your local machine. So if we click projects here and we create a new project, and we start from scratch, you'll see that it's using my my local machine, my computer. So if I say webinar, it will create a folder called webinar, and then it will work from there. And I can throw some files here, and we can then start working on it together there. That's one thing. You can schedule tasks, so you can do that automatically Monday every morning, or do a manual automated one. Live artifacts, this is basically if you wanted to create a quick prototype or some kind of simple application for you, or let's say you love going to the gym and you want to create a program, but you want to input the data, artifacts can help you do that. So it's a really cool way to create interactive applications or websites, or prototype certain things. Dispatch, just to give you just a high-level overview of what dispatch is. These phrases do sound slightly weird, but I'll explain what dispatch is. I found Dispatch very useful for my use case. I was traveling recently, and what Dispatch is, you connect your phone to your local machine and the desktop application, and you can basically run Claude Cowork via your phone, so we can access your folders or your files. And let's say, for example, in my case, whilst I was traveling, one evening I wanted to go to a restaurant, but I still needed to get work done. So I would communicate on the phone to Dispatch and then explain what it needs to do. It will access my files, work through my files, report what it's done. And whilst I was still out, I could see the output. I can then say, do this, do that, and then come back to my local machine and then see the work that it's done. So it's quite useful if you're on the go, but need to get work done. And then the final thing that Phil mentioned, which is super, super useful, is the skills and the connectors. So here is where you create the skills. Again, I'm not going to go into this in detail, but it is super useful when it comes to repetitive tasks that needs to be done. And then here are the connectors. So if I just open the connectors, browse connectors, you can then see all there's hundreds and hundreds of different applications that you might be using in your business that it can access, and it can read the information, it can present the information, and it can push information to it. So for example, I use a task management software called ClickUp, and it can, I can share, hey, I need these particular tasks done, or can you see my last week's tasks and see what needs to be done and help me plan the week? Just a simple example. Phil mentioned around email and Fathom on how it can use transcripts and support in writing email. So this is where the connectors belong. Once you do a connector, it has access to it, and you can use it in any of your chats. Okay, so that's a very quick walkthrough of the navigation menu. Now I'm going to show you the example of the work. So here's the complex task. I'm going to show you the files that it had access to. So here you can see these are the files. So what I gave it was marketing leads data. So this is an example of the document. So just as all dummy content. So these are just each month. And then you have the revenue data here as well. And then you have kind of expense data here. And what I also provided is the brand guidelines. So you can see these are the specific brand colors that it needs to use. These are the typography that it needs to use. And these are some of the presentation guidelines that I have. Again, if I was speaking to someone who's just recently been hired in the company, I would give them this kind of brief so that they know what they're working with when they do the output. So similar process in terms of providing the information necessary. In addition, I've added the logo as well. So it has access to the company logo. This is obviously a demo company. There's no Horizon Digital, but this is the logo that it has access to. So in terms of the prompt, this is what I asked it to do. So I'm a marketing manager preparing for a leadership presentation. Tomorrow I have 3 data files attached. So I explain each of the files. So marketing leads data, what it is, revenue data, what it is, company P&L, and what it is. And then I ask it to do 2 things. So create and consolidate analysis spreadsheet. So I just give it a bit more specifics, include a summary dashboard sheet with the headline numbers. And second, create a PowerPoint presentation, 8 to 10 slides, keep the logo and size it correctly. And these are some pointers of what it should do. Open with the business content, present the channel comparison, deliver a clear recommendation on where to invest, backed by numbers, closes with the proposed next steps, make the recommendation based on what the data actually shows, best ROI, best conversion, most sustainable for growth. And then I'm just going to copy this and we'll come on to actually running it ourselves. Actually, I'll do that now. So if I click on a new task and I'll just paste that prompt here. And then here we can see work in a project. So I'm just going to create choose a different folder. And I'm just going to create a new folder here. So a new folder. I'm just going to do webinar demo version 2. And it can access that, select folder, and then I'm going to click always allow. So if I click allow, then it might ask again for permission. I'm just going to say always allow. Here you also have the option to say always ask before acting. So if you want to always check what it's doing, and if you feel safe in the chat for what you're doing, you can say ask without asking, and it will just do the work going forward. Here's when you can choose the particular model. So the latest model is Opus 4.7. The one I'm going to be using is 4.6. I definitely would consider staying on Opus. However, Opus does consume a lot more tokens, simply because it's significantly better than the other models for the kind of work that for more complex work. I would say stick to Opus because the output is significantly better. And then I'm just going to attach the files that I just showed you a second ago. So if I just go back to the folders here, I'm just going to share these folders here, these files. So now that I have that, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And a few things that will happen is it will review initially, and then it might ask me some questions just to clarify any assumptions that it has. Again, similar to working with a particular individual who you might have just recently hired, just to ensure that they do the work correctly. So we'll give it a second to show. And as it's running through the files, you can see it on the right-hand side. You can see the progress. So it hasn't set up the tasks yet. You can see it has access to the folder. And then if we wanted to provide it further context, we could do as well. So like say, you might have your company information, ideal customer profile, your market, industry knowledge. You can provide it here if you wish. So as that's working, I'm just going to go back to the one that I did deliver. So we can give it a second to do that. And then I'm going to show you the output of what I delivered yesterday. So here is the folder that it worked from. So this is, it's just loading now. So if we bring it here, so you can see it adds the summary. So Horizon Digital, so channel summary. So it has all the information here. It shows the ROI and it shows the key insights. So webinars deliver the highest ROI and conversion rate. Cold outreach has lowest. Google Ads drives the most leads by volume. And then monthly details. So it shows the data all consolidated into one. So it shows the leads, the spend, the CPL, the deals, the revenue. So it's brought all of the information from the 3 spreadsheets into one nice and neat one that I can present or share. In the PowerPoint, this is what it looks like. So it uses the logo, it uses the brand guidelines as suggested, the font size, and the colors as well. So you can see the business context. So it takes the indicators or the pointers I gave for the brief of the PowerPoint. So at a glance, it shows the charts as well. So the charts that I can actually change and update, key takeaway. And I think what was very impressive for me is one, the content, the way it's written, the copy is written for a slide or a presentation deck, but also the UI or the design is formatted perfectly. In terms of alignment, it feels very professional, very clean. It has the title, the subheading, it keeps with the brand guidelines. And my job now is to review each slide from a content perspective to see, am I happy with what I'm about to deliver? Or should I change something or should I update something? But in terms of the slide, the structure, what I've asked it to do is, as Phil said, pretty much ready to go, just needs my human input. So if I go back here, you can see it's asking the questions. So this is the one that I was working on before. So for the missing May call outreach to how should I handle the data? So exclude May entirely or show 0. So let's just say here, what audience level is this presentation for? I will say C-suite. Should the recommendation consider any constraints or priorities beyond what the data shows? I'll just say data-driven only, and then it's asked, gone through the questions, and now it will start to build the task list. So you should see the progress being updated with the task list it's going to create. So we'll just give that just a moment. Yep, so now you can see it's creating the tasks and that will update here. So you can see that here. So it can create, so building the analysis spreadsheet, create leadership presentations, and then it does its own Q&A on the slides. So I'll show you something pretty cool here. If I scroll back up, so when it was doing the Q&A, so now let me do the Q&A on the slides. So that was using the brand guidelines. So you can see here, so let me fix the key issues identified. So it goes through the slides, it takes each image, it reviews each image of the slide, and then decides, oh, this spacing layout is not correct, or I need to change this, or the logo is too small, or whatever it might say, that it needs to improve it. And again, that's based on the model, understanding what needs to be good for an output for for particular work. So I'm going to press pause on the demo now. Hopefully you had a kind of a high level understanding of how Cowork can, one, output something that's almost ready to go, and two, the UI of Cowork and Claude in general on the desktop. So going back to the slide, it goes to the last point, which is Microsoft. So what is Microsoft doing in this space, and you know, how it might impact how you might use Microsoft. So Microsoft is working with Anthropic at this point right now. They recently introduced the Claude models, I think very early this year, into Copilot Studio and into Copilot, understanding that the Claude models were significantly better than ChatGPT. However, now seeing how Cowork is taking off and how the impact on work is happening in comparison to, let's say, ChatGPT and OpenAI, Microsoft has taken basically the entire user experience that I just showed you now, and built that layer within Copilot. So they're calling it Microsoft Copilot Cowork. And the added advantage for Microsoft customers is it will have access to all of your Microsoft products and Microsoft files. So if you're working in Word or if you're working in PowerPoint, and also you wouldn't need to download this as a desktop for your local machine. It will have access to your OneDrive and your files there. So two things it can do. It can read all of the files, and it can create new files as well. So to access this, it would be through the Frontier program. And basically what needs to happen is if you have a Copilot license, your IT team or whoever you're working with should be able to enroll you into the Frontier program where you can access Microsoft Copilot Cowork. We can provide you more details after this call on how to do that, but it's through the Frontier program to access Microsoft Copilot Cowork. Now, one of the really interesting things is Microsoft, it has underneath Copilot Cowork the technology called Work IQ. So this is its context-driven brain for Claude's model Opus 4.7 that is currently now, plus the UI UX experience that Microsoft is using, that it allows it to understand your different tools and your current engagement. So the way that Phil was explaining connectors, this would be another form of connectors in the Microsoft suite. So it will be Work IQ, in which Copilot Cowork can access. You can write emails, it can create forms, it can access your team's channels, it can see the list in SharePoint, it can see your documents, it can create documents. So here are some use cases on how Cowork shows up in the real work. So one would be, let's simple clean up your calendar, so reschedule meetings and protect focus time, build a meeting packet and align the team. So it's literally what I've just done with Claude. It can do through Microsoft Copilot. And then a simple one is research a company fast, so pull sources, compile analysis, and package the results. So I'm going to show you very quickly a video, 1 minute video of how this can work. Just want to check if my audio will work. I'm not too sure if it will. I'll
let you know, Anish.
No, I don't think you can hear that, right?
No.
Let me see if I can do it another way. I'll share the link. Unfortunately, I don't know if maybe if I try stop sharing and sharing again, it might give me the option.
I was having one of those moments, Anish, when I was looking at that, and I was just thinking, like 4 years ago, if you were to see this presentation, you'd be like, no, that's science fiction. It's just crazy to see the output.
It is absolutely crazy. Let me share. Yeah, I think it also share tab audio. So let me try one more time. And let me try it again.
Say you're an account manager.
Yeah,
yep, you can hear it.
Now.
Say you're an account manager and you have a big customer meeting coming up fast. Let's use Copilot Cowork to handle it. Because it connects directly into Work IQ, it doesn't rely on connectors, which only captures fragments of data and lacks full context about you and how you work. You need the latest account updates turned into a briefing doc, usage and sales trends to dig deeper, and a presentation you can walk into the room with. That's a lot of moving pieces. Copilot Cowork doesn't just respond. It takes your full request, breaks it into tasks, and carries the work forward, start to finish. But this isn't prompt and response. You can interrupt, steer, and add to it as you go. You remember you want to schedule prep time with your team and send a status update to the broader account team. Cowork folds it into the plan without pausing what's already in motion. It checks schedules and sends a meeting proposal your way, which you can book right then and there. Then it crafts the email, which you can edit manually and hit send, bringing the power of Outlook right into the flow of work. Now let's see what it put together for us. It creates a briefing doc packed with an account snapshot and everything relevant for the room. And it keeps to your original template formatting, a presentation that lays out the opportunities and your competitive edge, and a sales and usage breakdown with graphs and charts to back it up, all saved directly to OneDrive so the content is immediately enterprise knowledge that's protected and ready for collaboration. While all of this is happening, Cowork is moving all your tasks forward at once, and because it runs inside Microsoft 365, security and compliance come built in. This is Copilot Cowork, built for real work. Say you're an account manager and you have a big customer meeting coming.
She likes to promote Cowork. So that's a demo, a use case of using Cowork, and again, trying to show you how similar it is to Claude Cowork. So there isn't anything new that we're showing you here. And as mentioned, Microsoft is using Anthropic and the models to build the Microsoft Cowork. So just the final thing that I want to share with you is the way I look at it is the 80-20 rule. So if I have a big task that needs to be done and I feel Cowork would be useful for its support, I imagine it will provide me 80% of the output. I would never say it will be 100%, and that's my rule of thumb, never 100%, but definitely 80% is my kind of success. And once I receive the working through it. So the 80% formatting, the cross-referencing, the it's something that I can definitely work with. That I feel like if I don't have that much time, it will then support me with that. And then the 20% is I expect between me and the relationship with the customer, what I need to provide, the decisions, the review, and the editing, where really my impact on the work exists rather than the work to begin with. So this is how Cowork going forward. Great, thank you. I will pass you back to Phil.
Thanks, Anish. Let me just share my screen. Yeah, like that's an impressive demonstration there. I was kind of blown away myself on some of that, I've got to say. Fantastic. Yeah, no, thank you very much. So yes, really interesting stuff. So looking forward to our next webinar. So it's in 5 weeks' time on the 28th of May, and Anish is having the day off. So I've got to a place where we are having guest speakers, so quite nice. So we've got I think it's going to be Sammy and Anne from the Jersey office of the Information Commissioner, and then Paul from Propel Forward, a local data protection consultant, and they're going to be talking about data protection in AI, and especially Joik's kind of role in creating or co-authoring the AI playbook for Jersey. So it should be a really good one, all about sort of ethics and trust and safety around using AI. So yeah, and the government side of AI, which we all know is super important. So there's a QR code down there, so you can scan that on your phone or go to llama.je/webinar9, or I think Yvonne's just put a link to it in the chat. So if you want to click on that, that'd be cool. We would love to see you there. Do also in Eventbrite subscribe to the Blue Llama events, so you get notified. And then Yeah, just something. So this is something that we want people to sort of register their interest if it appeals to you. And it's still a concept that me and Anish are sort of bouncing around, and we haven't decided exactly how it would work, but we think it's a super important thing to do. And what we're looking to do is get a small group of senior leaders within their company in small businesses in Jersey, and have monthly meetings. Those meetings could be online, or they may be in person, to have this kind of peer support, and also myself and Anish kind of giving expert insights into AI and how it can be used, and looking at their particular scenarios and really helping them out. On top of that, also having like peer-to-peer support via a group chat. It could be WhatsApp, it could be Teams, whatever people decide on. So as I said, at the moment, it's a concept that we're thinking about. I don't know if you've attended masterminds before. I've been in one and I found it super useful. So if that concept appeals to you, and we're not asking you to commit to anything, but if it's interesting to you, then do scan that code, or llama.je/mastermind. Again, Ivana's put it in the chat there. Do go there and register your interest, and then once we've established what it might look like, we'll send out further information to you. But I just think, yeah, it could be a really good initiative to be involved in. And I think education around AI, it seems to be a lot of people are interested in it, but having that sort of peer-to-peer and be able to discuss with different businesses how they're using it and get ideas together could be super powerful. So yeah, if that appeals to you, then do let us know through that link. I thought we were going to have loads of time for questions, but it doesn't seem that way. We've kind of overrun a little bit. So just to recap, so we've kind of shown you the transition from that conversation AI, which ChatGPT came out from a while back, to how it can now, you can assign tasks to it and let it go and let it create something, so that yes, you've got 80% of the work already done, and then your involvement is that 20% of refining it and making it better. So we looked at some very quick case studies, and then Anish walked you through this great example of consolidating information and creating a PowerPoint presentation around the use of webinars over other marketing. And then yes, we looked at Microsoft Copilot Cowork, which I really think they need their branding people to work on, because it's a bit of a mouthful. But yeah, and how that will be coming soon, and it uses the underlying architecture from Anthropic's Cowork to do that, and that'll be coming out soon. And I think, yeah, as we kind of, a lot of the businesses in Jersey are Microsoft based, that's going to be a big step forward. Brilliant. So we just have 6 minutes or so for Q&As. So let me go over. There weren't many to begin with, but let me just have a look now. What we got in there? A few people having difficulty with recordings and stuff, so we'll get back to you guys with those recordings. We do send out recordings at the end. Have we got any questions? I can't see any questions in there. Oh, so no. So no questions. Such an interesting topic. Oh,
I think we have one question. I think Ginny has her hand up. Ginny, if I pronounce it wrong, apologies. You're on mute if you want to jump in.
Hello,
okay.
Hi, it's Ginny here.
Hi.
I'm so sorry, I put my hand up and I didn't really have a question, but no, I came in late, so apologies. I had a client with me. But I'm really interested in AI, but I'm very much a beginner. Could you tell me if AI would help me with the interior design side of what I do? Is that something that it could help with, presentation-wise? On the creative side, rather than the PowerPoint presentations, So at the moment I use SketchUp for designing interiors for clients. And instead of going, I did see something on one of my social medias yesterday, and it was advertising a product, an AI product, to convert your SketchUp diagrams into real life or they look real life interiors to give a better feel. Is this something that you're familiar with or you've dealt with rather than present?
Yeah, I don't personally have experience with that kind of thing.
Okay.
So you take it, and I'm not, Anish, do you know SketchUp? Have you come across that before?
I know in the new Claude design you can do Sketch. I haven't come across SketchUp, but
it's a Trimble software product, so it's probably an easier product than learning CAD.
Okay.
So I'm self-taught with SketchUp, and yeah, and I'm just really interested in how I can take that further in my business, as well as the presentations for new services that we're offering. So yeah, and I can see Laurie from Jersey Business is on here, and she recommended I maybe log into this and find out a bit more about AI. So thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so Anish, you've been playing around with Claude Design, haven't you? Which is a tool for creating websites and presentations and all that kind of stuff,
Okay.
which probably isn't something useful for you right now, but yeah, it's like.
Yeah, I can think of other ways that I might be able to use AI. We've just taken on new services with Locate Jersey, with relocation services, and I've done presentations where I've produced them myself, but I'm sure I could do much better with AI. So yeah, there's lots of different things where I think it could be used if I knew how to use it.
Yeah,
I would just, sorry, Phil, I would just add there. I think to answer your question, it would be, not right for us to say yes, it can, or no, it can't, until we sit down with you and explore its possibility. And I would say this to anybody in the room, if in a similar way to Ginny, if you feel like, okay, how can I use it in my business? I would say two things. Definitely reach out, and we'll be happy to have a call to explore and play. I think we can only answer for our use cases or how we're using it, but I believe the AI capability and the models are so advanced that potentially we can push the boundaries here and see what we think it can't do, but maybe challenge ourselves to see if it can do it, which is something that I use as a principle. But again, also the mastermind is a great place for this kind of question as well. So we can explore these ideas of where you might think you'd like to use AI, but don't know how to. And we're happy to go out and practice and try it, and then come back to show you the results and show you how to do it. So yeah, couldn't answer the question until we actually go deep and try to play with it to see your specific context. And that's for anyone else in the room as well.
Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Yeah, please.
A couple of questions. So Jackie, the question of I always wonder about the security of sharing my data. Where does it go? Yes. So so the one thing we did talk about here with Cowork is that the information is stored on your machine, which is great. So unless you're using connectors and connecting up to all sorts of different software, then the information for Cowork is stored on your machine. And the files that Anish was creating there for reports and the PowerPoint presentation and all that kind of stuff was local on his machine, which is great. However, there is some information, am I right, Anish, saying that it would be being sent to the large language model, as you would be doing with any use of AI. But go on, Anish, go on. You'll answer this better.
Yeah, no, I think great question, and I think this is probably why those who are using Microsoft and want to ensure that the information that they're sharing with it stays within their tenant, and this is why we made it a big piece, well, a piece of the presentation to explain from a security and data privacy perspective. It's better to use AI if you're using it for work within Microsoft tenant. If you're using it in Claude obviously, or Anthropic, will have access because it needs to digest the information you're sharing with it, and thus the large language model, even though the file is not stored anywhere that it outputs other than on your local machine, it still is processing the file that you give it through its language model. So yes, naturally Claude will have access to it and use it.
Perfect. Jackie's just saying she's not a Microsoft company.
Yes. So what we can do, Phil, after this call is potentially link, provide a link from Anthropic around security and data privacy for enterprise customers or companies, because they are working with big enterprise customers and they are dealing with security and privacy. We're focusing much more on Microsoft, and that's why we know a lot more around that. But we can share with you the link on how Claude and Anthropic is dealing with data and privacy for businesses.
Perfect. Okay, we'll drop you a link, Jackie. And then lastly, because we are over time, but who is it? Is it Jackie again?
Sean.
Sean, is it? Oh yeah, it's hidden my. Our team access our system via Azure Virtual Desktop. Copilot Cowork appears to be only available on certain enterprise subscription levels. Even if you have paid for Copilot subscription, is this correct? Also, when will Copilot become available to the mainstream rather than via Frontier? And will availability access options be relaxed? Anish, sorry, you've been the one investigating in the Microsoft side.
I didn't quite get the first question, but when will Cowork become available in the mainstream rather than via Frontier? This is not a question I can actually answer, because I think Frontier, preview, experimental, it's all the same thing. It's basically it's an alpha or beta testing, and I think they'll only release it to the wider public once they feel it is delivering upon the output that it expects. So I think they don't necessarily have a release date. It's more about ensuring that the mass users who are using it are getting the value they want, and they're obviously researching that before they release it. However, from what I've read, it's actually very accessible for anyone to join the Frontier program if you have a Copilot license. So if you have a Copilot license, it will be available, or you can just say, I want to sign up to the Frontier program. You'll get instant access, and Copilot Cowork Frontier will be accessible for you. So essentially, it's available to anybody who has a Copilot license.
Perfect. Okay, I think you've answered both parts of the question there. Brilliant. Okay, so we are over time, so I think it is time to call it a day. Thank you so much for attending. Really, a really good session and some nice questions at the end there, and good to see such a great attendance. If you do have any questions that you didn't want to ask in the chat, then there's the email addresses of myself and Anish, and we are more than happy to answer any questions that you have, even if you think they're ridiculous. So yeah, thank you very much for attending, and yeah, hopefully see you in 5 weeks for the next webinar. Anish, anything to add before we go?
No, all good. Thank you very much. And yeah, if you are interested in the mastermind, this is a very exciting initiative for us to support individuals who may not be looking for a particular AI automation solution, but more of a how do I implement in your own business. I think that would be a very exciting opportunity to work with you more closely, similar to what Ginny's question was. I think that's the kind of work we can support you with. And also, as I mentioned, AI world releasing something new every week. We are always keeping on top of it, but we're not sharing it on every webinar. So the mastermind will be a great opportunity for us to keep those informed on how to use it in your business. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it, and see you all soon.
Nice one. We'll send a follow-up email with stuff about the mastermind and a recording of today. Brilliant. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Cheers. Bye now.